Imagina a reação de um ser humano quando fica frente a frente com um extraterrestre e também as suas naves. Mas você sabia que os animais também reagem de uma forma diferente a esse tipo de contato e muitas vezes é fatal para eles? Vem comigo nessa entrevista inédita e exclusiva que eu falo muito mais com a pesquisadora que investiga esse fenômeno profundamente. Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, boa madrugada, aonde você estiver. Eu sou o Thiago Lechiquete. Sejam bem-vindos ao canal Desvendando Mistérios. A minha entrevistada de hoje é a ufóloga norte-americana Linda Zimmermann, uma das maiores pesquisadoras sobre os acontecimentos inexplicáveis que acontecem em Hudson Valley, nos Estados Unidos e Nova York. Ela também foi a primeira a investigar detalhadamente os efeitos que sofrem os animais após um contato com extraterrestres e suas naves. Ela vai fazer declarações aqui que eu tenho certeza que muitos de vocês jamais ouviram antes. Linda Zimmermann é uma cientista pesquisadora que se tornou autora premiada de mais de 30 livros sobre ciência, história, paranormalidade e ficção, com destaque para o livro Animal Reactions to UFOs e Hudson Valley UFOs, The Best Evidence. Ela conferiu palestras em todos os Estados Unidos, incluindo vários simpósios da MUFON, além de ter participado de vários programas de TV e rádio. Linda estrelou o documentário In the Night Sky, I Recall a UFO, que foi baseado em sua pesquisa sobre avistamentos no Vale Hudson, em Nova York. O filme ganhou o People's Choice Award de 2013 no EBE Film Festival no International UFO Congress. Ela foi nomeada 2 vezes melhor autora do Vale do Hudson e também a maior personalidade do rádio. E se você gosta dos vídeos que eu apresento aqui no canal, não se esqueça de se inscrever, chame seus amigos para se inscreverem também. Marque também o sininho, para sempre que tiver um vídeo novo você ser avisado e não perder nada. Dê um like também em todos os vídeos do canal, assista a todos, tenho certeza que você vai gostar, tem coisa inédita aqui no canal. E também, deixe o seu comentário em todos os vídeos. Eu quero saber a sua opinião, o que você pensa. É importante aqui para o canal também. E compartilhe este vídeo e o canal para que possamos crescer cada vez mais. Vamos então para essa entrevista, mais uma, inédita e exclusiva, que você só encontra aqui no canal Desvendando Mistérios. Hey Linda, thank you very much for being here at my YouTube channel. It's a very pleasure to meet you at Cincinnati. Your speech was amazing. Your presentation was amazing, very interesting, because I like that subject, and I'm pretty sure that the Brazilian audience is gonna love it much more than I.
Well, thank you. It was great meeting you. As I told you, I love the energy you bring to your work, and I wish we had more people like you in the field.
Oh, we will have. We will have. So I will start with the same question that I make to all my guests. What led you to the UFO research?
Well, I grew up in the Hudson Valley of New York, which is I lived about 45 minutes or an hour north of Manhattan, which was suburbs, still had farms. And there were UFO stories all the time in the newspapers, the radios. You couldn't help but run into somebody who had a UFO story. And I honestly grew up thinking it was normal. And then I found out it wasn't so normal. But I was fortunate enough to live in an area with an enormous amount of UFO sightings over the last 100 years, really.
Yeah, so let's start talking about it. And I have some precious here. I have this book, Hudson Valley. I did not get to Cincinnati to get your autograph because my luggage was very heavy and I had to pay extra wage when I back because I bought a lot of books. And I have this big one here.
Oh, you got the big one. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's an extra charge on a plane just for
Yes.
that.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I have almost 1,000 of books here in my library.
Wow.
And these two are amazing because I heard a lot about the UFO at Hudson Valley. And since Imbrogio wrote something like that, I think his name was Imbrogio. I
Yeah,
forgot.
and Brogno. Phil and
Imbrogno, yeah,
Brogno.
yeah.
Yes.
I have one of these books and I read for the first time. It was amazing. So once we started with Hudson Valley, let's see. Tell us more about what happened at Hudson Valley.
Well, starting in the early 1900s, there was what was called mysterious airships, and they were enormous craft with lights. Before people were flying at night or had lights on airplanes, 1908, 1909, no one was flying at night. And they would be seen for hours at a time. They could hover, they could go extremely fast, just absolutely no explanation for it. So I always point to that period of time when people say that there was a wave in the 1980s of enormous triangular craft, and everybody said it's the government, secret projects. And I said, even if you discount everyone, how do you explain the 1909 sightings? And we've just had these waves of saucers in the 50s and 60s, and then the triangles in the 80s and 90s. And most recently, I'd say in the last 15 years, which is recent in UFO terms, we're getting rectangles, which are very unusual, rectangles and squares. So also an enormous amount of abductions, which surprised me when I first started my research. I thought, oh, a lot of people are going to see lights in the sky. And the first person I interviewed, well, I've been abducted since I was a little child, and my mother was, and my father was, and now my children and grandchildren. And like, what have I gotten myself into here? So you name it, the Hudson Valley has had it.
I always said if you are a ufologist, you just have to dig. If you dig, you're gonna find it. So it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yes, you're right. It's
And
everywhere.
yes, and the Hudson Valley, I think in 100 years, or 15 or 75 years, you had more than 5,000 cases or sightings at the Hudson Valley, right?
Yeah, that was just in the 1980s, an estimated 5,000 sightings. And as you know, how many people actually report their sightings? So what can you multiply by a 10, 100? It's remarkable.
Yeah, the number is going to be much more. And many people say that the Hudson Valley would be a portal through which these objects would enter and leave our planet. What do you think about this possibility?
I'm open to all possibilities because particularly the massive triangles, nobody ever saw them land. And that I think is a key, if they're suddenly there, they are suddenly gone. Well, where did they go? It's not like they're hiding somewhere that how do you hide something the size of a football stadium? It's particularly in this area. So it could be some people say they see them just suddenly appearing in the sky, or I love the cases where they'll say the craft just shrunk to a point and disappeared. Portal, certainly sounds like it.
Yes, very weird. And you just said one of the cases I read about the Hudson Valley was a UFO, a rectangular UFO, the size of a football field. How come nobody get a picture, a photo of it, or a camera of security? Do you think they have this, I don't know, technology to avoid, to camouflage themselves from our eyes and our equipments?
And also put fear in you. Saturday morning at the conference in Cincinnati, a man came who lives in Kentucky, and he said in 1999 he was at a family reunion, 119 relatives. That's a big reunion. And he said they saw an enormous disc the size of an aircraft carrier, but it wasn't level like we're used to seeing them portrayed. It was kind of upright, like you'd hold a shield. And his cousin was sitting on the back of a truck with all of his 35 millimeter cameras. He was the one taking all the pictures for the family reunion. And so he goes over to his cousin and says, why don't you take a picture of this thing? And with fear in his eyes, the guy said, my cameras can't take a picture of that. And all of a sudden, this guy's like, something came over and goes, oh, you're right. Your cameras can't take a picture of that. And now he's saying, that made no sense. But at the time, something came over him. And I hear this time and time again, people who have their cell phone in their hand, or there's a camera on the seat next to them. Something comes over them that says, I can't take a picture of this. I don't know if you've run into cases like that.
Yeah, I do have cases here like that, and I don't have the answer because most people get shocked. Well, I want to see that. It's something so amazing that I don't want to miss a thing. So they kept the cell phone like this and keep eyeing on the object, and the cell phone is not recording that. They're recording something else. They're not recording, so people get shocked. And I have a report that people, it's not. I cannot say that they were afraid, but they were paralyzed to do that action. He can walk, he can move, but do the action to record, to grab the cell phone or the camera or everything else, and record. They cannot do that. Something like they are controlling their mind. So this action you cannot do. It's amazing. It's amazing. We have
it's frightening too, to think that they can influence you, and at that distance. And what are they using to do that?
Yes, we don't know. We don't know. And of all the cases that you research in Hudson Valley, which one? Pick one. Pick one. I know it's difficult. It's like you have to choose one of your kids. So pick one that which one impressed you the most?
Well, there was other than my own sighting, which impressed me. There was one of a man by the name of Dennis Sant, and he was coming home from a church meeting with his children. And there was this was 1983, there was one of these massive triangles over a highway next to his house. And he thought, I'd really like to get a better look at that. And as soon as he thought that, the craft moved directly above him. He said everything was lit up like a stadium at night. And it was getting lower and lower, and he was fascinated. But all of a sudden, he's like, wait a minute, what did I just ask for here? And as soon as he was a little afraid, the craft moved off, and he regretted seeing it. But it really changed his life in a positive way. He was already kind of spiritual, but this really opened it up. And he was just a wonderful man and an honest, open witness. And to hear him talk about what he described as a city of lights in the sky at treetop level above him for minutes, it's I kind of get a chill up my spine every time I think of the way he described that case.
And once you mentioned your sighting. Please share with us your sighting.
Okay. Well, I did see in the, I think it was around 86, I saw one of the massive V-shaped craft. I was driving from dinner with a friend, and she's like, what is that? And I look, and it's I think it was an August night. And so the car window was down, absolutely no sound. And it was this huge V just skimming along, just moving like you don't see things move. And you knew at that moment you're seeing something very special. But the sighting I had in 79, it's kind of long, but briefly, um, 3 yellowish white lights. I couldn't see structure, was going down a highway near where I lived, and a friend called and said, "Get outside." So we ran out, and then we jumped in the car and followed it, and they took off in different directions. But for some reason, I thought, there's this lake where years ago there was a sighting. Maybe it's worth driving up there. So we drive up there, and wouldn't you know, these 3 lights are coming together, and they're moving fast towards one another, and we're like, "Oh my god, they're gonna crash." And they came together in this blue-green bright light and became one object, and then slowly lowered to the top of this hill and was pulsing with this blue-green light. And, I was in college at the time taking physics courses, and there was nothing in my science classes that said how these 3 objects could become one. And that is, that was a real game changer for me as well as a science student. Well, here's science that has no explanation.
Linda, I had a sighting as well, but it was in 1982, just like you, just a ball of light. I cannot see the shape, the structure behind that light. And we are talking about sightings from 1982, from the 80s, from the 70s. And nowadays we have a lot of things in the skies. We have drones, we have satellites, we have the Starlinks, we have much more airplanes, and even this way, we cannot get a good picture of a UFO. Why?
I wish I had that answer. And oh, these Starlinks, I can't tell you how many. 5 minutes before the show, I was checking messages, and I saw this line of evenly spaced. I'm like, Starlink, sorry, you hate to burst their bubble. But drones as well. So many people have drones. But drones have cameras too. So it would be nice if they were in the sky taking pictures of other things in the sky we can't explain. And people who have security cameras that are filming all day long and all night long, outside of their house. And you get some lights moving by, but a lot of these cameras are not built to take pictures of lights in the sky at night. So hopefully that will change with the technology, the monitoring stations that people are starting to build.
Yeah, just as I said, I think that they have the technology to get blind to our eyes and our technology. We have a lot of cases that the only way to see the UFOs was for like a thermal camera or a heat camera. We cannot see through our eyes.
Yeah, my 79 sighting, I thought to grab my 35 millimeter. I did what I should have, and I took a lot. I was in photography classes, so I knew what I was doing, and every single one of my photos came out black. So I tried.
Yeah, they don't want to be seen. We have to face that. We have to face
You're
that.
right.
Well, another one of your other research is about the effects of animal and human contact with UFO. It's sensational. I saw your
Thank you.
your presentation in Cincinnati. Let's talk about both, but let's start with animals. And I have this book as well.
Oh, I love you. Thank you.
Let's talk about animals. What are the effects on animals that you found in your research?
Mostly fear. And I think we should pay attention if animals ranging from insects to guard dogs and cows and horses and birds are afraid when a UFO is coming by. I think we need to pay attention to that. And they sense a UFO's presence before we see it. You know, it could be many minutes in advance. And they are traumatized by these events for days, weeks, sometimes forever. So whereas a human might stand there and say, "Wow, that was a cool sighting," the animal may be changed forever. So something is going on with their senses that we are not picking up on, and I think it's critically important, and we need to pay attention to these animal witnesses.
And some say that animals are very sensitive, and I have two dogs.
Mhm.
And what frightened me a lot when I'm with them and they just start to look to the wall or to the window. Oh my god! Don't do that.
Right, right, right. So they
I
are
don't know if they're a
hearing or
ghost or an alien
right.
or a UFO. Please don't do that.
Well, I've done a lot of, paranormal investigations, and dogs and cats, I'll tell you, they know when things are there, so, yeah, people tell me that all the time, you know, "My cat's looking at something, and I don't see or hear it, so I don't pay attention, I don't wanna know."
I think it's better this way.
That's right, that's right.
Well, are there records or reports of animal death after contact with a UFO or alien beings?
Yes, unfortunately, in fact, I was talking with the Canadian head of MUFON at the conference, Eric, Tessier, I believe his name is, and he's just working on a case. I guess I can talk about it. I think it was like a crop circle or a depression, and unfortunately, a dog passed away there. But the story I talked about at the conference was from Uruguay, and I think it was 1979, where a UFO was descending on a dairy farm. And all the animals, the cows were hysterical, all the dogs were upset. The human felt burned. He got physically burned. He felt vibration. A generator blew, so you know something was going on. But this one dog, Topo, brave guard dog, he wanted to protect everybody, so he ran towards the UFO and he was stopped. Something stopped him 15 feet from it. He sat down and started howling. You know, very strange. Why didn't he continue? Well, obviously something stopped him, and the craft went away, but Topo got very sick. He wouldn't eat, very lethargic. And 3 days later, he laid down on the actual spot where he had been stopped, and he died. And the veterinarians did an autopsy on him, and his internal organs had been intensely heated, and his body fat had actually liquefied. So poor Topo, you know, trying to protect his owner and his farm, and he runs into something that, whether it was radiation or microwaves, just killed him, which is, I feel so bad for this dog because, you know, I'm a dog lover too, and it's horrible when a dog's trying to protect you and he loses his life.
Yeah, and during the symposium, I told you that we have the case Virginia, the Virginia case, and there's an episode during the capture of the creature that a lady saw one of the aliens in a zoo, and a week later, dozens of animals died in a mysterious way. Nobody know what killed that animals. So, and we had a military, an intelligence military that also died after
Yes.
touching this creature, the Virginia creature. So there's something that can kill you, animals
Yes.
and
Yeah.
human.
Yeah, that's
And
very important, that zoo case. I don't think I had heard that before. I was stunned, but not surprised, particularly if the man was killed after touching him.
I will get more information about this animal kills and send to you. I'm going to translate it in English and send to you.
Oh, that would be fabulous. Thank you.
And is there any species of animal that suffers more than others after these contacts?
I think dogs, only because they are trying to be protective. That's their domain and something coming in on it, and they're very, very sensitive to sounds and magnetic fields. And when something comes in that's disrupting their magnetic fields or hurting them with high pitch, and cats as well. There's a lot of cases of cats during a sighting. They're so disoriented, they actually and panicked, they, like, run into walls. There was one who ran into the side of a garage. Um, they're just so out of it and hysterical and disoriented. Some cats run off and are never seen again. There was a case of a dog that was, you name the type of guard dog, it was a cross of Rottweiler and Doberman, and after he hid under the bed, which is not like this dog, and for a year afterwards, he didn't want to go into the backyard alone. Now, that's this dog's this is his kingdom, his backyard. So these animals are traumatized to the point where their behavior could change forever. So there may be other animals that react more, but again, we see the dogs and cats, our pets, so we have more data on them as well.
And we also have reports that in cases that when a UFO is about to appear, UFOs and aliens, all the animal life just get quiet. There's
Mhm.
no noise. The dog that's always bark for everything didn't bark at all, or the cattle or the horses just get very quiet. So we have these two types, or the animal get very excited and bark, and for a dog, and in other hand, we have this animal just get quiet. That's savage life as well, wildlife as well,
Mhm.
get very quiet. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I call that the non-reaction reaction, where everything around you goes quiet, and, I included in the book that case of, the Rio Pardo area in Brazil, where those, 3 businessmen were crocodile hunting, and everything, the insects make noise at night, the birds, everything makes noise, and this cylindrical UFO came close and everything went quiet. Everything was, they said, this awful silence. That has to be so unnerving. You're used to this. It's like you're used to living in the middle of a city with the horns and the traffic, and imagine walking down the city street and everything suddenly went silent. So some sort of force was being exerted, some energy field that silences all forms of life. It's very unnerving.
Yeah, that's not usual. Now let's talk about the effects on humans. What are the main effects that we have?
I think, if depending on the type of experience, if you've just had a sighting that was relatively near. It kind of runs the gamut from exhilaration and you can't wait to have another one. I had one guy say, I want to drive one of those things. You know, they're very excited about it. And on the flip side, there was a young woman who was absolutely terrified. And 40 years later, she will not go out to bring the garbage out at night unless someone is with her. And so that's a lifelong trauma. You don't know what else happened. She thought she just saw the craft. For the abductees, I think it's very heavily skewed towards fear, resentment, PTSD. You know, they're traumatized, lifelong nightmares. You know, physical things. I know some people talk about healings, but most of the people I have dealt with talk about the trauma, the injuries, physical and mental they have sustained as a result.
And they are not even abducted. So just to see how that thing affect the human being. And in your book, you say about positive and negative effects. Tell us about both.
Some of the positive effects, like the Dennis Sant story, he loved his experience and he became more open and spiritual. Um, I I loved seeing what I saw. I can't wait to see more. So I I I do have some missing time from the 1979 thing, which with those three lights, which bothers me. But I wouldn't say I have trauma from it. Um, a lot of people see their sighting, their experience as a turning point in their life when they realized all their little problems don't matter as much and there's a bigger world out there and they start thinking outside the box, they say, and they're more emboldened. So those are all positives. And then again, the negatives, a lot of people don't even want to talk about it. You don't, you know, you ask them, they say, nope, I'm not talking about it. It was too unpleasant. And then the ones who do agree, I mean, I've heard some horror stories that just keep you up at night. So experiences are as different as the individuals themselves. And why do some people have positive and some negative? I can't really say.
And you have cases like this from Brazil in your book, besides the Rio Pardo. Tell us about one of these cases, please.
I don't know if I will say this right. Ibiuna, which is
Ibiona, yeah.
Ibiuna, to the southwest of Sao Paulo. Um, this was in March, April of '69, where these lights, orange orbs, they'd say about the size of car headlights, would appear. And they said if undisturbed, you know, you didn't chase after them, they said they would dance around in the sky fairly low, apparently, for upwards of an hour. The people were fascinated. Unfortunately, the animals in the area, not so much. They said the pigs, the fowl, you name the barnyard animals. Before the lights were seen, and I think this is very important, before anybody saw the lights, sometimes up to an hour before they saw the lights, the animals were making sounds, they said, as if they were suffering in pain. And so whatever this was detrimental, harmful to the animals. That activity lasted a month or two. And then they were seeing different craft. There were 3 different cases after that in the summertime where they described them as UFO nests. And what they meant by that then, now we would call a crop circle or a depression. In the tall grass, there were counterclockwise swirls of depressed grass. 3 separate sightings of that. And there's great descriptions of these cases, goes into a lot of detail. But during that few month period, so much activity, so much physical trace evidence. What could we do today with our science, with those cases?
Yeah, I agree. We could find much more. A question came to my mind. What the reaction? There's a different reaction of a dog, let's say of a dog or of a cat, with its owner after its owner get in contact with a UFO or an alien.
So more of like an experiencer or an abductee. I've spoken to people whose animals, again, they seem to have gone through something as well, seem to be skittish, like they'll hide. They Whether they're just picking up on what happened to their owner or they had experiences as well, which is I tend to think happened. Um, they're not as happy and outgoing as they used to be. It seems that they don't they don't want to be taken again, or they don't want to see their owner taken again. They don't enjoy it and they're fearful of it for sure.
Poor pets.
I
And you also investigate a supernatural phenomena. You had 30 books and research to have a lot of paranormal, supernatural phenomena research about ghosts. That I love it. I am afraid, but I love it. Do you believe that many cases can actually be sighting of extraterrestrial beings and vice versa?
Yes, yes, that is an excellent point because um, a lot of people I interviewed about the paranormal, the ghost stories, came to realize they weren't ghosts. But when you're a little kid, like I think of this one case where she would see these whitish figures, smallish, one a little taller than the other, at her bedroom door. The only thing she could equate that to is, oh, they must be ghosts. And when she got older, she realized, no, they were ETs, they were extraterrestrials. And then I think, yes, vice versa as well. People who think it may be UFO activity or something extraterrestrial in their home, and it's not. It's I think it's ghostly spirit activity in their homes. And then some people have both. Uh, I can't tell you how many cases where someone will have an intense close encounter, maybe not an abduction, but some craft 10 feet or 20 feet from them. And then strange things start happening at home, like poltergeist activity. Things start flying around the house and moving. Um, I can think of this one woman who lived nearby here, and she had an abduction experience as she was driving, and the rest of her life, she had weird things going on in her home. She's moved out to New Mexico. The activity has followed her and now her husband and her children. And it's like a really intense encounter. It breaks down some sort of barriers. It's like some sort of blocks in your brain are just blown away. and you start experiencing as they say, high strangeness on all sorts of levels. That's my theory.
Be a detective is not good, and living with a poltergeist, whoa, what a bad luck.
You
A
know,
bad luck.
people used to ask me all the time, do you know of a haunted house for sale? Because I'd like to live in it. I'm like, no, 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 no. Do you not have enough problems in your life without trying to take on a haunting? People don't get it.
People always ask me, I want to be abducted. No, don't
Oh,
be, please, don't be,
really?
don't be. And have you ever seen a ghost?
Yes.
Oh
Yes,
my God.
and I photographed one too.
Whoa. Send me
Yes.
later. Send me later.
I will. I will. Yeah, dark, shadowy figure. It was a very negative haunting, and I saw something moving, and it blocked the light that was coming in through the window. And I grabbed my camera, took a few infrared pictures, and when I got home, I put them up on. You can't see anything on the backs of those little cameras. So when I enlarged it, I was like, oh my God, I was in the room with this thing. It's this dark, almost looks like a hunchbacked figure, like 20 feet from me. I'm so glad I I didn't know what I was in the room with at that point. But yeah, I have investigated hundreds of places over 25 years, and you see things you don't forget.
And the Hudson Valley also had UFOs and a ghost places, right?
Yes, it's also one of the most haunted areas of the country, which probably isn't a coincidence.
And have you been visited the Amityville house that moving book very famous?
Yes, I have not personally been there. I know several people who have, and yeah, a lot of people don't realize that that all started with a multi-murder. This man basically murdered his whole family. So if you're going to create a haunting, that is a prime way to do it. So I don't doubt that something went on there. Um, and I have people all the time, "We wanna be the next Amityville Horror. Can you come and find ghosts for me?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I don't work that way." You know? A lot of people wanna capitalize on their hauntings.
Well, I prefer just to read the books and watch the
Yes,
movies, please.
yes. It's scary, and you can bring home things can attach to you,
Yes,
and
I learned that from from the movies. See, if you go to a haunting place, you can carry that bad energy with you,
yes.
and I don't think it's pleasure because
No, no, I
it's
I investigated, it was a murder-suicide, it was really bad, and I thought I do this little clearing techniques, but the next day, we needed a plumber, and the plumber is in the basement, and it's just he and there's these heavy footsteps on the first floor above us, and he's like, "Who's here?" And I knew what I must have brought something home. "What, you going to tell your plumber that?" So I said, "Yeah, no, nobody else is home." And he, "Yes." I mean, it was so loud and clear. He grabbed this big wrench and he ran upstairs ready to fight the intruder, but no one was to be seen. And unfortunately, the plumber never returned. So I had to had to do a house clearing and find another plumber. So
I think he had a good reason to not come back.
yeah, he didn't realize he was coming to the ghost investigator's house. So
And
uh
it is something that we don't tell everybody. So, you know.
no, no. Yeah.
Linda, to finish our interview, it's amazing. But in your view of everything that have been happen, what happened in the United States, like the disclosure, the audience, do you think that we are finally facing the UFO disclosure for real?
Uh, I I hope so, but I've seen enough where we've gotten very close and is the Pentagon, is the deep state, all of these secret government agencies, are they going to give that up? I I don't know. I hope so. Hope I live long enough to see that, but I'm not holding my breath over it.
Well, let's see. We are very anxious to. We hope to see that report from NASA and then another report from Pentagon. Let's see what's gonna happen. Linda, I would like to thank you very much for your time. We could spend hours and hours talking about cases in the Hudson Valley, ghosts and animals, effects and reactions. But now I think that my audience, the Brazilian audience, know much more about you. As I said, they're going to leave all the links in the
Thank you.
video so the people can buy your books, because now we can buy from the United States. We have Amazon
Oh, great.
worldwide. So, and I recommend your books,
Thank you.
not only because I read this one, I read already, and I start to read this one before I fly to Cincinnati, because I want to meet you and see your presentation, watch your presentation, but because your research is unique, is a very deep and serious research. So thank you very much for sharing all this information with us.
Thank you. Absolutely my pleasure, and I hope we run into each other in a conference again someday.
I hope to. So thank you very much.
Thank you.